Well, joining us in the studio now to go through today's papers, we've got broadcaster and journalist Carol Malone and former Labour MP Bill Rammell.
I don't think you've done this panel with us before, Bill.
I have not when you've been here, Andrew.
Oh, right.
Bill and I had a big Barney's the other night on Patrick's show.
Oh, no, right.
This is like round two.
Right,
Let's have a Barney now. Do you want to talk about Prince Harry?
I want to talk about Prince Harry. This was the warrior for truth and accountability and justice, the man who said he was going to take on the media because they needed to be accountable. And so when the money got up to the amount he was interested in hearing, he's taken it. So what price his principles, I wonder? Now, I know there'll be people all over the country saying he won. What's he won? He didn't win anything. A news group of newspapers have not admitted any responsibility. They have not admitted liability. They have not admitted phone hacking. They've said if any of that happened, or gathering information illegally, if any of that happened, they said it happened on the News of the World. Well, it's easy to say that because, of course, that's been closed for 10 years. But he has not battered down news group newspapers like he said he was going to do.
He said he wanted his day in court.
And I would love him to have had his day in court because I would love to have seen him prove what he claimed had happened. But, you know, what they've done is news group newspapers is they've basically bought him off and shut him up. And that's what he said was never going to happen. A few years ago, when, if you remember, lots of celebs, Hugh Grant in particular, said they couldn't take the money because if they'd been awarded 1 penny less than what they'd been offered out of court, they would have had to pay all of the costs, which could have been 10 million quid. So when celebrities said they couldn't afford that, Harry said, don't worry, money's no object to me. Yeah. I'm going to do it. I'm going to take you on. And look what he's done. It got up to between 10 and 20 million. Oh, I think I'll have that.
Well, I think it's 10 million, isn't it, the total
Well,
package?
I don't know. There's
8 figures, so it could be anything over 10.
I think we're hearing it's 10 million, but a lot of that is his costs.
Yeah, and I'm thinking that probably Meghan's had a hard word, because if you might remember, there was an article in a magazine a year ago where she said she wished he would stop the obsession with all the lawsuits because it was hurting him and it was hurting their family. And she said, you know, she wanted him to have peace from all that. So I suspect that now, because their income stream is drying up. They're not America's darlings anymore. Vanity Fair turned on them last week. You know, Spotify dumped them. Netflix, Meghan's new show's not going out because of the California wildfires. So I suspect they couldn't afford to lose 10 million plus.
Look, the reality of why he's pulled out and reached a settlement is our privacy laws. And frankly, I think that needs looking at. But, you know, you go into a court case and if you don't accept the deal and you end up with a penny less than that, all the costs are awarded against you. And, you know, when someone as wealthy as Hugh Grant reaches that conclusion that he has to settle, there's something wrong with the privacy laws. However,
that's an excuse. We are where we are. These are the laws.
I'm not always a Harry fan, but I salute him. He stood up to news group newspapers. He's got a 10 million plus settlement.
Prince Harry was supposed to go to war with the press. He said he was going to hold them accountable, to fight for justice, to finally expose what they've done not just to him, but to his mother, Princess Diana, and anyone else caught in the tabloids' crosshairs. But now, he's quietly accepted a massive payout from news group newspapers. No trial, no testimony, no press conference. And people are asking the obvious question, did they just pay him to shut up? Let's break this down. News group newspapers is the publisher of The Sun, one of the most powerful and most controversial tabloids in the UK. Prince Harry had been suing them for alleged illegal information gathering. We're talking about phone tapping, bugging, private investigators, all the tactics that exploded during the phone hacking scandal years ago. Harry was one of the few public figures who refused to settle. He said he wanted the truth. He wanted accountability. He even said that the institution, the monarchy, was afraid of the tabloids, and he was done being silent. So what changed? This week, Prince Harry accepted a financial settlement from NGN.
And he's received the biggest admission of guilt that news group newspapers...
admission of guilt.
Yes,
I'm sorry, Bill.
Hold on.
Legally, you've just... That's wrong. There has been an apology. It is not an admission of guilt.
And an acceptance that private investigators, on behalf of The Sun, were hacking...
News of the World.
On behalf of the News of the World.
Criminal activities.
What's News of the World?
Not criminal activities. On behalf of the News of the World. You've got to get this right. It's really important because news group newspapers got it right when they settled, because they they were very particular about the wording of this settlement.
Then tell me why the lawyer for Prince Harry yesterday, without challenge by The Sun or News Group newspapers, was able to compare what Rebecca Brooks said in her 2014 trial, where she said we ran a clean ship, with an admission yesterday that there'd been a criminal enterprise under The Sun and under News Group newspapers.
No heads have rolled at News Group newspapers, so there is no victory for Harry there.
And that's a scandal, and frankly, as the lawyer for Prince Harry and Tom Watson said yesterday, this needs to be referred to the Metropolitan Police.
How do you find Tom Watson? This is a man who besmirched the reputation of some of our finest figures. Lord Bramall, who was a chief of defence staff, who was a war hero. He repeated untrue allegations by a man who's now in prison for conspiracy to pervert the course of justice and paedophilia for 18 and a half years. Tom Watson abused parliamentary privilege to name and make all these wicked allegations against Leon Britton, who was dying at the time. None of it was true. And then he stands there all piously going on about how appalling the newspaper. He has behaved abominably ill.
I worked with Tom Watson in government.
Answer what I've just said.
And I'm going to answer what you said. I think he got it fundamentally wrong once he left government, and when he was on the Culture, Media and Sports Select Committee, and he was taking on people like Bramall, Leon Britton, and actually the most appalling case that I can't quite recall, where there was the fantasist who was alleging paedophilia.
Carl Beach.
Yeah, Carl Beach.
They were all the allegations from Carl Beach.
He got it fundamentally wrong. However, on this, he's fundamentally right, and I think there's been an abuse of power, an abuse of the press by News Group newspapers.
The exact amount wasn't confirmed, but insiders say it's in the 6 to 7-figure range. And in return, he agreed to drop his lawsuit over phone hacking and illegal intrusion. And now, critics and even supporters are saying the quiet part out loud. They've bought him off. One headline read, "Harry takes the money. The fight is over." Some say this isn't a victory. It's surrender. That the press once again avoided a public reckoning, this time by writing a very large check. And that Harry, who promised to be the one royal who wouldn't be silenced, has just been silenced. But here's the other side of it. Harry's legal team insists that he still believes in media accountability. That this case was only dropped due to a legal technicality, a limitation issue. That Harry didn't back down, he was just boxed in by the courts. And they're right about one thing. The legal system has time limits. If too much time passes, even the most valid case can be tossed. So maybe Harry had to accept the settlement or risk getting nothing. But still, the optics are bad. Because the royal who called out the invisible contract between the palace and the press, the same man who accused tabloids of destroying his mental health, has now taken their money and walked away. So we're left with this question. Was this justice or just a payout? Did Prince Harry do what he had to do? Or did he let the press win again?
Destroying the lives of innocent people. And you're saying it's a good thing.
Harry would argue that his life has been destroyed, starting as a child, when his mother and his own private lives were intruded on. So I do think
I'm sorry, they have said there was intrusion. However, when you're a member of the royal family, I'm not saying to the extent to which Diana was followed, but and Harry has no right to complain about intrusion, because by the time he was growing up and in school, he was not disturbed by the press. They had a very nice childhood until they got to 18 and then came out into the world.
Parents' divorce and his mother's death. But I mean,
I'm sorry. No, I'm talking about at the hands of the press.
Yeah, there was a deal. There was a deal with the media. The kids were left alone completely when they were at school.
His mother was killed
by a drunk driver.
Yeah, when there was a press pack chase going on against her.
French paparazzi.
French paparazzi. And it was a drunk driver that killed her. A guy who'd been drinking all night. So let's not say the press murdered her, because that is simply not, although Harry says that.
And Harry, Harry it was a terrible blow for him to lose his mother so young. It's such terrible circumstances, and to have grief in the eyes of the world on him. But he died. She died because Henri Paul was drunk and on drugs, and she did not have her seatbelt on.
I accept that, and I also accept that Harry has got some judgments wrong during his recent life. I mean, to end up estranged from his father and his brother at this time, I think is, apart from anything else, is very, very sad. However, on what we're talking about, he was fundamentally right. There was an abuse of power, an abuse of the law by newspapers, and it needs to be sorted out.
What a pity he didn't fight it then. What a pity he didn't go to court and actually take newspapers on and actually put his case in front of the country, in front of the world.
But Carol, that's an indictment of the legal system.
No, it isn't. He knew what the legal system was, Bill. He understood the legal system.
As wealthy as Harry ultimately has to pull out.
He understood. He didn't have to pull out.
Carol,
he chose to pull out.
Are you defending that legal system, that if you're taking a privacy case, you are effectively bullied out from taking your case to court? What I'm saying to you is, because you can't risk the financial ruin? It was fully explained to him how the legal system worked. He knew that, if not the least because of Hugh Grant, because of what they said. But what he said at the time was, we are going to... He said, forget all of that. I'm going to take it on, despite the system and despite how much it cost. He's gone further than anyone, and he's brought it...
Well, he's done nothing.
He's brought about the biggest admission of guilt by
where we wanted his grievances aired, we've not heard them because he's taken the money.
And most importantly, what message does this send to everyone else who's ever been targeted by the tabloids? The media machine keeps spinning. The victims stay silent. And the truth, still buried beneath settlements, NDAs, and power. Let me know what you think. Did Prince Harry make the right choice? Or did the tabloids just write their way out of another scandal? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on that bell, because this fight may be over, but the war between royals and the media is far from done. Thanks for watching.